What do you build? Do you enjoy
Welcome to the Kent Lapp Podcast.
Not try this at home.
Jamie Free, welcome to the podcast, man.
Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming by. I'm stoked about this.
Yeah.
Let's pick up on where we left off a little bit before we turn the mics on. You are competing in CrossFit. You're hoping to be at the games this year, maybe next year. You're about to be 40. That puts you in that 40 to 44 category.
Yes,
so there's some domination on the horizon. I can sense it already.
I just hope that I can make it, honestly. I have my first, our first child is being born in July. So,
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, it's going to be, we'll see what training looks like after that. But
Yes.
yeah, it's definitely a goal.
Yeah. Well, the sleep might be the biggest trick there.
Yeah. My wife and I live on opposite schedules in terms of sleep. So
Oh,
I
yeah?
sleep from like 8 to 3:30, and then she's like pretty much up from like 2:30 or up till 2:30, and then yeah.
Because of her job or because she likes to be up during the night?
She likes to watch murder shows, and that worries me.
Okay.
So when I'm waking up to, do whatever, and I'm looking at the screen, it's like, this is how she killed her husband. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you watching?
Exactly. There. Yeah. I think you're probably safe, dude. I mean, look at that. I mean, I think you're probably. I haven't seen your wife, but I think you're probably safe.
She's way better CrossFitter than I was.
Oh, really? Yeah. So she's into it as well.
She did Grid League. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you meet in CrossFit, or how'd you guys meet?
Through CrossFit.
Okay.
Kind of indirectly through a acquaintance. She was a flight attendant for Delta.
Okay.
And she laid over in Nashville a bunch, and she was looking for a gym, and my buddy sent her my way, and
No kidding.
6 years later, we're
No kidding.
going into
Very
4
cool.
years of marriage.
Congratulations.
Appreciate that.
By the way, is this what is your Kobe? Can you pull up? But just Google Jamie Free or James Free CrossFit. He has some stats on there. I wanted to call out. By the way, in 2019, you were 17th in the U.S. and 32nd in the world
For the Open, yeah.
for the Open.
Yeah, I was 20th overall after the AGOQ, and they cut it to 10 that year.
Dude,
Yeah.
that is exceptional, bro. I mean, seriously.
I wish they hadn't cut it, because I wouldn't have to worry about making my first appearance at the games, because I would have made it top 20. Because they
what do
cut
you
it
mean
to 10 that year. So
and
for
normally it
Masters,
would have been top 20, and then
20.
you would have gone to the games in
Yeah.
19.
Yeah.
Aha. Okay.
Me and another buddy of mine were kind of like all in this one group, this Masters group, a bunch of old dudes just complaining about CrossFit. But like, yeah, he was 18th, I was 20th, and both of us didn't make it.
Oh,
So,
no.
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
But scroll down, Kobe, to the bottom. So here, are these stats right? Your back squat, you have a max back squat on there at 510 pounds,
Yes.
deadlift 635.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah. That was 510 was this year. So that was recent. 625 is my most recent. Within the last, I would say, I think it's within the last 7 months.
So you hit a PR on a back squat at age 38?
Yes.
Dang.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing this?
Fitness in general, I've been CrossFitting for 10 years, but fitness in general, I mean, I played college football. So, I was, I guess, I don't know, taught the wrong way to lift for a very long time.
Yeah.
And then when I got into it, I started to adjust. I actually luckily ended up out in Sacramento. Mark Bell, he's a super trainer, the hip circles and the bench, the band bench and all that stuff. And he helped me through a couple different things.
Okay.
Squat wise, bench wise. I don't bench much anymore. There's really no need for it in CrossFit. So
Okay. I feel like we bench at our gym maybe a little bit more than some gyms. Not a ton. They benched today and my shoulder's out, which is a bummer. I left class early today. It's like, there's nothing here for me today, guys.
Gonna take this one off.
Exactly. But the clean and jerk at 340 pounds as well, how recent was that?
Pretty recent.
Okay.
I've hit it again. I've never gone over it, but I've hit it multiple times.
So what do you go ahead and I'll cut you off.
What's the other ones?
Well, I mean, there's a snatch on there at 265 pounds as well.
That's-
Dude, that's so much,
That's
man.
recent.
Is it really?
Yeah, 275 is my all-time.
Okay, so you've hit 275 on a snatch.
That's like the golden goose, especially for like lanky, long-armed people. Mm-hmm. And I have like a 6'4" wingspan. So I'm not your normal 5'11" guy. I have really, really stupid long arms.
Okay.
Yeah. So
When you how do you account for a back squat PR at age 38? Which, by the way, if you hit 5'10", say you're at the gym, what do you send an email to CrossFit and say, hey, just FYI? Like, how do they wouldn't know that unless you notify them, right?
Everyone puts their own in.
Oh, you just log in.
Yeah. So
I
you
see.
log in if something changes, and I keep them updated. Some people don't keep them up to date.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm proud of them, so I'm not going to
Of course.
hide them.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So how do you account for that at your age? Some people would think that, a person peaks in their 20s and you're not going to be doing a PR on a back squat at 38.
I mean, I would say mobility, position definitely help. The more I can stack my spine, the better my hips are mobile. I can stand up better. So I also had some really good spotters. So I felt comfortable. We had 2 on the sides, 1 in the back, and I was like, all right, I can do this without dying. We're good.
So you stack 5. So you have just a traditional 45-pound barbell, 510 pounds. So, 205 less the 45 on each side. Stand under it, get your form right, pull it off, back up, and just go down and back up again.
Yeah, I have a video.
That is like a stinking bus.
Yeah, I have a video of it, and it felt like it took forever.
Okay.
It was like going up in an elevator to the top floor, but it actually looked pretty good, pretty fast.
Yeah, well, I don't doubt it. I'd love to see the video. That's just okay. What are you doing? We're just kind of. We need to come back around introducing you, but what are you doing in particular on a back squat to make sure you don't throw your back out?
So I try to work up as much as possible without a belt. So the closer I can get to 85 to 90% without a belt, the stronger my core is going to be, the better I'm going to be able to brace myself. So, and then obviously making sure your stance is proper, your chest is up when you're squatting, depending on length. Now I have a very short torso and long legs, so I'm going to squat differently than someone else. Everyone should squat differently because we're all made differently.
Yeah.
So the whole toes forward, follow, that. And I don't subscribe to that. So everyone's should be able to be coached to fit them, not them to fit in a box. So
Okay. Yeah. I'm asking a little bit selfishly because I put my back out 3 times in 2 months, and 2 of them were from front squatting. And all it was, the first time actually happened when I was picking up my 2-year-old at like 2 a.m. She crawled into our bed and I tried to sit her down and I tweaked my back and it felt like someone cut something. And then twice on front squats, I was just going too heavy too quick. And so now when it happened the 3rd time, I went to see Josh Rankins in Brentwood.
Josh is awesome.
Yeah, he is. He was on here recently, and he said I need to plan on a 2-month recovery. So that is up May 1. No pain now, but what you're saying about the belt though is I think I'm going to start doing that because while I'm in this kind of recovery period, I've not been using the belt at all.
Yeah.
Obviously, I need to keep my backs have some movement and everything, and I'm not going heavy on the weights. But so you don't use a belt until you're 85 or 90%.
Yeah, and some days it's
generally
80%. Some days it's more. It's just a matter of how I feel that day and what's programmed. So I follow Mayhem Athlete right now.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. So the Bergener Strength program is just we squat every day. And I go every other week at this point because I don't need my knees to feel worn out.
Yes.
So I'd rather give everything I have on the workouts rather than, a bunch of strength stuff that I really don't necessarily need all the time. Okay,
that makes sense. Let's give people some context. So Jamie Free, can you tell the listeners just a little bit about who you are and what you're doing? You're into a few things.
I got my hands in a few things. Well, I'm co-owner of CrossFit Trivium with Nate Dodd. Nate's been around the area for a long time. He's been competing for a long time. He's 41. So 2 masters, 2 old guys just running a gym, having some fun. So, and then I am the owner of 27 Health and Wellness, which I've done nutrition for the past 13 years. I also train youth athletes there. I'm part of CHW, which is Collective Health and Wellness, which is a corporate wellness company. So we work with companies on proper track. So basically sleep, mental acuity, and making sure that, your head's on straight during the workday, nutrition, and then workouts. So it's a 4-prong approach there. And then there's Masters Fitness Collective, which is an events company that started in 2019.
And tell me a little bit more about Masters Fitness Collective. We talked about it before the
Yeah.
mics were on, just a touch.
Yeah, no, it's honestly, it came out of kind of like we just wanted to see our buddies at the games, and they weren't, showing us that. So there was no coverage, there was nothing there. So we decided that
If you're in Masters, and Masters is an age thing, like you age into Masters, right? So like ESPN and these other people, they weren't showing those guys.
No.
And
No,
you said,
CrossFit-
I think there's
yeah.
people out there that want to see these guys
I mean,
also,
so-
and gals.
And the thing about it is, like, that's where the majority of the money in CrossFit is, 35 and up. Everyone that has real jobs, not trying to make money being fitness professionals, so it just really comes down to 80% of the money that goes into CrossFit comes from 35 plus. So let's give them an outlet.
Aha, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So can people watch? So how about this year with the CrossFit Games coming up in July? Can people see these Masters competing through Masters Fitness Collective?
So they'll still compete at the games. But we have a competition in September over Labor Day weekend.
Okay.
It's Labor Day. Yeah.
In September, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
September. We have a competition over that weekend. It's a 3-day comp with a 1-day team comp right before it. So it's they'll all be going there and competing and hopefully winning some money.
Okay, so Masters Fitness Collective is a separate event.
We're licensed by CrossFit. We're not part of CrossFit.
I see. Okay, I thought for a second you were saying that you provided the TV coverage for Masters athletes at the CrossFit Games.
That was the original plan.
Okay.
And then COVID happened. So
Okay.
the pandemic shut down Masters and Teens for the year.
Gotcha.
And us, and then Pit Ranch through the teens event, and we through the Masters event.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. CrossFit Trivium, it seems to me, has a reputation in the area for being at least the ability to kind of develop elite athletes. Is this always kind of a goal or kind of something you guys had in mind?
I mean, it's such a small percentage of people that come to the gym that are elite athletes, and most of them came to the gym elite. So it's not like, I wouldn't say that we created them. We give them a home, and then they get to work out. I mean, it's great having them around. We really do enjoy it. But the majority of our members are just trying to be healthy like everyone else.
For sure,
and,
yeah.
Maybe make a PR when they're 40.
Yep. They're like me, man.
I mean, but that's what the majority of gyms are.
Yes.
Unless you have a really, really young gym. Our gym is probably mid-20s to mid-40s, and that's the main group that we have.
Yes. That seems pretty similar to at our gym, but man, we got a couple old guys too. They're in their 60s easily.
Yeah.
And they get after it, man.
Yeah.
So having some of the elite CrossFit athletes come to Trivium, were those just people you happen to know, or are you doing some things or somehow creating a space there at Trivium for them to for it to work for them
Well,
there?
we originally, and Will Morad does our programming. So we had Will at the gym. We gave him a home a long time ago. He's been with us a long time. And then Sydney Wells moved to the area, and Brooke came with her. And then
When was that?
That was last March.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then she's like, all right, who's in the area? Will's in the area. We'll train with Will.
Okay.
And then Alex Smith came in town, and Street Horner came into town, and we were like, all right, we got a bunch of serious athletes. And then John Colty came into town. So it's been, I mean, they just kind of all collided there. And then Tia and Shane are now in town.
Yep.
So it's like every once in a while they'll be at the gym. They're awesome, by the way. They're like
Are
some
they?
of the nicest people I've
Are
ever
they
met.
as awesome as you seem? Tia and
100%.
both Shane, they seem really nice.
Super nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you, how do they know? Because they're the proven fitness guy. Folks are training a lot at CrossFit East Nashville too, I know. But sometimes they pop in at Trivium, it seems like. I follow them on Instagram.
Yeah.
What are they doing at Trivium that they can't do at East Nashville? Or is it just scheduling? Or
They have plenty of space at East Nashville, and Caleb's given them free run of the place, which Caleb's a great dude. East Nashville's a beautiful gym. We're just a different home, So they've been at our gym. We put on Brooks Stage 1 last year, and it was a spectacle. It was a show. But we want to support our people, so they're always welcome to come and train all together. And if we have the room, that's great. We're actually about to put a rig outside
Nice.
So we'll have an indoor outdoor, which is really nice.
Okay.
Place to lift, place to, do gymnastics, whatever, workouts. So
Yep.
It'll be pretty good.
Yeah. What is it about CrossFit that got you into it to begin with?
Man, 2012 was my first year. I owned a supplement store at the time, Max Muscle in Cool Springs. And
Is that a franchise?
it is. Yeah,
Okay.
it is. And I'm no longer a part of it anymore. So,
Okay.
thankfully.
I assume you rep the brand pretty dang well. Dude, your freaking arms, freaking like little legs, man.
I literally, I just came from the gym, so it's just the pump. Don't worry.
Yeah,
about
I don't
that.
believe that for a second.
It'll deflate. No
I
problem.
don't believe that at all.
But yeah, I mean, it was. I walked into a gym to support one of my athletes, Derek Robinson, D-Rob. He's like an OG, and they were doing 7 minutes of burpees, and I was like, burpees? That's it, really? Because I was in bodybuilding at the time. I'm like, burpees? I could do burpees. So I tried it, and I came out like super hot. Like the first minute, I was like 27 burpees, and then I finished at 83 in the 7 minutes. So I almost died. Pretty sure I may have passed away and then came back because I laid on the ground for like an hour and a half afterwards. I was like, if 7 minutes can knock me on my rear end for an hour, then I need to get better at this. So then that's when it kind of started. I signed up for the open, put my score in, and the rest is history.
So you just straight up signed up for the open, hadn't even been doing CrossFit for any amount of time?
That was my first workout, first CrossFit workout. And I was
The 7 minute burpees.
Yeah.
And I've never seen a CrossFit workout program like that. That was literally as many burpees as you can do in 7 minutes.
It was terrible.
Dude.
I think I was like 235 at the time and just not in
Yeah, that
shape.
sounds rough. We've
Yeah, it
never
was
done anything
awful.
quite like that.
Yeah.
There is something about the sport. I think that I feel like some people just fall into it. Like I was listening to Fraser on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he kind of slipped into it and then fell in love with it. It just seems like something about the sport that is common. Do you think it's because athletes like yourself, you were into fitness and all this, and then you find CrossFit and it kind of has something the variety or the intensity, or what do you think it is that is attracting?
Well, I mean, being challenged constantly is something that I really enjoy. I train with people that are better than me, so I'm never like complacent. Like I train with this one guy. He's 35, so he's a master's, and he is an absolute unit. Like 6'3", can snatch 280, like just a monster. And he pushes me every day. So the camaraderie. I was a team sport guy. I played college football. The community, those things kind of kept me in. Like I love the workouts, and I can do them alone in my garage, but being in the gym with people, everyone kind of cheering each other on, I think that's really what grabs people and keeps them there.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think too, I'm probably a good example for this because I'm not a very big dude and I'm not an exceptional athlete by any stretch of the imagination. But I just go, 5 days a week. And I think I heard the founder of CrossFit or some video somewhere where I believe the founder, someone was talking about like, you do CrossFit for some amount of time and you're going to start to develop muscles in areas that you hadn't had muscles before. Like some of the wing stuff and like, and like I've noticed some of that. And that's fun. It's fun to look good, or at least to look better than you used to, So
well, anytime you can measure progress like that,
exactly.
It's incredibly important to wanting to continue. I run into that a lot with my clients. It's like you need to see some sort of progress or they disappear. So as we're moving forward, I measure in so many different ways in terms of metrics that we can at least pick something that they can stick to allow them to continue forward.
Yes, 100%. And you touched on the community aspect of CrossFit, and we've had more of that in the last year than we've had, and that's so we're really enjoying that. And part of that is my wife is joining now, so she joined like 4 or 5 months ago. She comes 5 days a week as well. We see each other at 11:30 to 12:30, and then we go separate ways. But if there's like an open announcement at the gym or Friday Night Lights. Now she knows the people, I know the people, so we're hanging out there. There is that community element too. It's really great.
Absolutely.
Which I think is just kind of built into it as well.
I mean, I think it shakes out. The right people stay. The wrong people tend to leave. And by wrong people, I mean people that are more about themselves than the whole the group as a whole. So those people usually will fall off, and then the people who care about the community and care about the gym and want to see it succeed, they stay. I mean, with COVID and everything that shut down, we shut down for only 5 weeks, which we were blessed. Williamson County has loose laws, so loose rules. But yeah, I mean, our whole community stayed. I mean, it was there was no attrition. We actually went up, and and so I mean, after 5 weeks, we were jamming back up at higher than we were.
I'm happy to hear that. Our gym was shut down for more than 5 weeks. I don't remember how long it was, but we're Davidson County.
A long time,
and it wasn't because Evan was not willing to open the gym. He was totally open, wanted to, and Davidson County shut us down. And on that note, did you know that the only two things more dangerous than inactivity for COVID-19, two things are more dangerous than being inactive? One is having a organ transplant, and the other is an excess, like being up in years, like being old. Those are the two things that are more dangerous than being inactive. And the gyms were shut down. So could you take a minute and explain that to me?
I don't understand the rationale, so I really can't explain that at all.
It just doesn't make sense, at least at face value.
I mean, you think about it. You look at the people that you've known that have gotten it, that are fit. Like, I got it over Thanksgiving, and I only knew because I couldn't smell.
Okay.
Like, that was it. I actually won a qualifier that weekend. So it's not like it doesn't affect you the same way it does for people who either smoke, have poor eating habits, just poor habits in general, lifestyle habits. Those are going to be the people that are affected the most. But honestly, like, you can't post anything like that on the internet, because I reposted something from one of my old clients who's now a nutritionist, and I got attacked. They were like, "Oh, you're a fat shamer." I'm like,
"Oh man,
that's not even what I said."
Here we go. All. Yeah,
internet is like the Wild West.
It is the Wild West. It's a very strange thing to be encountering that, and it's it's clear. I think between like people having their feelings hurt very easily and then censorship, there's something about those two things working together where, you've kind of find out pretty quickly like what people are okay hearing about and what they're not.
It's like I said, I have a daughter on the way, and I've been just finished the book Coddling of the American Mind.
Ooh, I've never read that one yet.
It's really good.
Is it?
Yeah. It makes you, I'm like, I'm not sending her to college.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, no way. Not the institutions that foster that kind of mentality.
Okay.
Like, I've never been in a position where I've been like, oh, I'm going to blame someone else for something I did wrong. Like, that accountability itself is being attacked.
Yes, it is.
So, and God, I'm the most, I can't say anything. You can't say anything. We are middle-aged, middle to upper class white guys.
Yeah,
like,
right.
We have no shot. Like, we can't say anything.
Yeah.
And I don't. I just kind of cruise
okay.
along.
Yeah.
I prefer not to stir the boat, or stir the water around the boat, because it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, but that's not going to lead us to good places, right? That's not going to allow us to pull from the best things out there in people's mind. Like, that's not going to have us kind of arrive at good conclusions if we have a large segment of the population that we're just not willing to hear from. For example, if you're just not willing to hear anything about COVID-19 that doesn't fit with the news media's narrative, well, then you are going to not have some probably worthwhile information. You may disagree with it, but it's probably worth hearing about it, right? Yeah. So that makes me like kind of a little bit sad, I guess, for the future of this country or our culture in general. If what you said, because what you said, I understand. Yeah. Being of this age and being white, there's some things that no one wants to hear you talk about.
And I'm not complaining about it.
Right. But it's still concerning.
Yeah. I mean, in 2016, I wrote, when I met my wife, I wrote a letter to our unborn child. And I don't know why this kind of gets me emotional, but it was just like telling her how the world is. Be like, hey, you're going to have to be strong. You're going to have to be tough. You're going to have to be able to stand up for yourself and stand behind what you say rather than hiding behind something. And it's crazy. I read it when we found out she was pregnant, and it still nothing's changed. It's only gotten worse, you know? So
why does that make you emotional when you just because I can see it in your eyes when you're talking about this letter you wrote in 2016, that was 5 years ago.
Yeah. We've been through a lot, like my wife and I. So when we met, she was a flight attendant. Then she moved up and she had shoulder surgery. So I was taking care of shoulder surgery. Then she went back to work, and one day she fell down the stairs and had a traumatic brain injury. And
oh no!
Yeah, she almost died on the stairs. Yeah, it was. Sorry.
Yeah, you're fine.
It was a stressful time. So 2 days later, they released her under 24 hours at Vanderbilt, which I'm baffled by, because it was a head injury. You should at least 24, if not 48. She had a grand mal seizure 2 days later and couldn't walk. So this was about 3 months before our actual wedding. So
how long ago?
This was going on 4 years.
Whoa.
Yeah. So yeah, man, it's her and I have been through a lot. We've been through her not being able to walk, her being pushed around in a wheelchair, and you know, it's we went through IVF process for our child. So we've been through a lot. It's, you know, it makes me emotional because of those things, and it just matters that much to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, dude, that makes total sense, and I can see that. I can kind of see the loyalty and the love, like with the way you're talking about this, and that, dude, those are things, man, that we need to have in every dude in America. You know, more of that.
Yeah.
So the accident happened, you said 4 years ago?
About 4 years ago, yeah.
And then you guys are married now, right? Did you get married recently?
We got married. We actually, our wedding was October 27th of that year.
Oh, okay.
So her goal through the whole process, through vestibular training and things like that, was to walk down the aisle.
Okay.
So, and she ended up doing it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
And now she's CrossFitting?
She's still CrossFitting. She was a grid athlete prior to that.
Okay.
So yeah, she's amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does she have most of the mobility back and functionality, or is it still?
She still has some headaches, a lot of tightness through her neck and shoulders. But yeah, she's still working out. She's still doing what she can. Especially, I mean, we're 6 months into being pregnant, so
yeah,
she's moving as well as she can.
Yeah. Congratulations on the child on the way, by the way. That's super exciting.
So excited.
Yeah, and dude, those life events like that, man, it's so hard. You know, it's so painful, and man, and yet, you know, there's something about hardship and pain and suffering that has a way of making you a better person too, creating some strong inner things, character, and so forth.
Well, you know, you got to look at it like, how bad was my day really? You know, my wife fought through, you know, a traumatic brain injury. I think my day was okay. I'll be all right. You know,
yeah.
I'm not gonna. I have changed my thought process on how things are. I used to really sit in that kind of like disgust or upset nature. Now I'm just like, all right, well, that happened. Just keep going. You can't really control everything. I can control how I react. And that's what I go with.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. My dad died when I was 10 from cancer. And then, so my mom raised us, and I had two older sisters and a younger brother. And my younger brother and I, one of the things that my dad taught us, and he died when I was 10, I guess, and my brother had been 7, but he loved to ski, and he was like just a dangerous skier, quite honestly. He was too fast. He just loved it so much. He loved to ski with his buddies, and he'd take my brother and I along, and he taught us to ski. So my brother and I loved to ski and snowboard and everything. And on like one of the very few occasions that my brother and I were not skiing or boarding together, he was with some buddies in Colorado and hit this massive jump, came down, caught the back of his board, hit the back of his head and cracked his helmets. Thank God he was wearing a helmet. He'd be totally dead if he hadn't.
Yeah.
Airlifted him off, and he was in a coma for 3 or 4 days. And I flew out there. I just remember seeing him in the hospital bed. It was, a massive brain injury.
Yeah.
And, when you've experienced death already in the family, and then here's your only brother, he's on the basically kind of what looked like to me a deathbed. He was all, it can screw you up, and you have to be okay with, well, this happened and we're going to press on, and thank God he's totally fine. He healed.
That's awesome.
And in the weeks thereafter. But when you experience some of that, it can cause you to pull away and not love or not press in. But that can't be the takeaway. It can't be the outcome. No. It goes back to what you're saying about this letter to your future kid with, I think, being strong and pressing forward, standing behind what you say. I think there's some takeaways when you deal with pain like that. Yeah. It can cause you in the future the temptation can be there in the future to not press in and kind of shield yourself, protect yourself. But dude, that's no way to live.
No, that's a natural movement for me, is to pull back.
Me too.
I'm an introvert, and I prefer to be alone most of the time. And I think that whole situation allowed me to take on more, and really feel it and really embrace it as, the ability to have someone lean on me and me not run away.
Yes.
And she's the first person that I've ever wanted to do that with. So, I give a lot of credit to the person I am today from my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say the same, man. What the wives don't put up with. I've learned so much from that.
It's phenomenally true.
Yes. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that, man.
Yeah.
I feel like I get some insight into your character and your drive a little bit from that, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, I wanted to ask you about Morad. You said that you use Mayhem programming at your gym, but I thought
I
Morad.
use Mayhem programming. Will programs for the gym.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
So-
Will programmed for me when I was in 2019 when I went to 20th.
Okay.
So he's very good at what he does. I get that Mayhem for free. So I do.
Okay.
Okay.
So
I got a kid on the way. I got to kind of save those $40. So
yeah,
it's convenient.
Okay, got it. And plus, so Will Morad's programming for CrossFit Trivium,
Yes.
but at CrossFit Trivium, that's going to be people like me there, not someone who's trying to get to the games. Whereas with Mayhem, you're on a programming that might be a little bit more geared toward the competition.
Geared towards masters, competitors.
I see.
And it's on Sugar WOD, so there's a leaderboard. There's all this stuff. So you want to beat everyone,
of course.
So, yeah, but I know every time I beat everyone, my workout partner has already beaten me. So
right, yep.
If I just stay close, I'll be all right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you've seen Brooke Wells do some work. How do you think she's looking this year? How do you think she's going to do this year?
She's fantastic. Her and her sister. Her sister made the semis too.
Saw that.
So it's just
kind of cool.
The way they move, the intensity they have, it's impressive.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think Brooke is, what was she, third in the North America? I mean, I don't see her relinquishing the top 5 spot. She'll be at the games.
Okay. Yeah. I could see that. She seems to just have really good movement, and man, you can see that kind of that determination in her eye too.
It's that. So the way I look at it is that guys that go to the NFL, they're the 1% of the 1%. These people that are in my gym, they're the 1% of the 1%. They're just a different animal. Mm-hmm. It's more about they're so focused and intense, and nothing hurts. Like, we have Hal Fisher at our gym too, and Hal, he has this button. It's somewhere in his head that he just shuts off pain. Like, he's the guy that, 2018, I think he was running on a air runner at regionals and threw up all over it and kept going. So like, he just shuts that pain out, and he's like 23.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he's an animal. He's been doing it since he was like 17.
Okay, so he's got a future.
Yeah.
How is Will feeling?
He's maintaining right now.
Okay.
I think, and if he's healthy when the games happen, he's a threat.
Yeah.
For the podium, without a doubt.
Yeah.
He's just built for CrossFit.
Yeah, it seems like it. What do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions about CrossFit? Because I think there's some out there.
Well, I mean, we talked about this before. It's the, everyone has to RX. Everyone, there's no scaling. You either do this or you don't, and you can leave. Like, I think people come into a gym and they expect to be like in 2 weeks. They're like, all right, well, we're going to compete, right? Listen, everything is scalable. Everything, you need to meet a member where they're at. Mm-hmm. And if as coaches, and our coaches are fantastic, they'll meet the member where they are. Like, we have one member that there's no way I would put a barbell on her back right now. And we scale everything around that, cause if she can't move, then how are you going to move with a barbell? Yep. So, I think people think that they have to hit like a certain like RX button to make them feel validation. But, we've kind of steered away from RX and all that stuff.
Have you?
Well, Wodify has RX and RX Plus, but we do GPP and competitor. That's really how we break it up.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. What does GPP stand for?
General Physical Preparedness.
Okay. So that's the terminology you're using. You're pulling out the workout of the day on the TV or whatever. The coach is talking through it. At the bottom, it might be GPP and competitor.
Yeah. So our workouts, all the strength's the same for everybody, but the workouts will change based on movement. So if there's ring muscle ups in, we'll just keep that as competitor, and then we'll back it down for people who can't do ring muscle ups.
Okay.
So they're still clicking an RX button, which is fine. I'm good with that. I don't really care. I don't care what weight people use when I'm coaching, because I coach Wednesday and Friday mornings, 5 and 6 a.m. I'm an early person. I love being up. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't care what weight they use. I don't care what scale they are. If you're getting the intensity that is supposed to be happening during the workout, I don't care if you're doing air squats and push-ups. It doesn't really matter. You need to get the right stimulus out.
Yeah. Did you have a 5 a.m. class at Trivium? Dang. Does anyone come to that? That is early, man. It's packed?
Yep.
Wow.
All our 5, 6, and 7 are usually full.
Wow. I mean, someone's getting up at like 4 or 4:15, maybe, unless they live very close.
That's what I love about it, is I know those people are coming to work. They're not like by chance stumbling in at 5 a.m. They're intentionally going there, and they're making sure that they get their workout in before their day starts.
Yeah, man, that is. I admire that so much. I feel really good when I get up early. By early, I just mean 6 or before. But it's not always super easy for me. But I like it when I'm up.
I couldn't tell you the last time I slept past 5:30.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you not sleep in on the weekends as a strategy so that you don't kind of lose that?
I just wake up.
It's just natural for you.
Normally, I'll wake up at like 4:30 usually on the weekends, and 3:30 during the weeks.
3:30 a.m.? Wow. And you're going to bed at 8:30? 8?
I'm probably sleeping by 8, and maybe I'll go to bed by 7:30. Yeah.
Wow. And this just fits you, or you're just way more productive in the morning, or why such a schedule? So
I'll get my workout in before I coach. So 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. I'll usually get one part of my workout in. And, I just feel like it's the quietest part of my day. So when you're dealing with clients and text messages and people asking you what should I eat when I'm going to this restaurant, like you get that just nonstop. I have nonstop inundated with stuff.
Yes.
So that's like the quietest part of my day.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine, dude. There's probably not a lot of people up at 4 a.m.
There's no traffic. It's great.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Best thing about COVID, at least the first several months, no traffic in Nashville.
That was fantastic.
I was just having this, I guess you could say, argument with some buddies a couple weekends ago. Do you consider CrossFit a sport?
I mean, how can you not? People consider like competitive cheerleading a sport. I mean, they're not doing anything less dangerous or more dangerous. I mean, the stuff that we do in CrossFit, when people compete, I mean, I think it should be a multi-level, like AAA, single A, double A, just like baseball. It should be like, that's how I think it should be broken out. But yeah, I think it's a sport. I mean, you're doing multiple sports in one thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it has regulations. It has a common language. Like there's a common language to it there is competition, there's a season, there is, quarterfinal, semi, the games. I mean, it's got everything that a sport has. So I would argue that it is a sport. And this is what I was saying, is I actually think that in time it's going to be self-evident. I think in time everyone like, well, yeah, of course it's a sport.
Well, I mean, the first person who shot a basketball into a peach bucket, people are like, what the hell are you doing?
Exactly.
That's nothing. So, I mean, it's just going to, like, you're right. It's going to take some time.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think when you look at the people who have won recently, they're good ambassadors to the sport. Tia's, again, fantastic. And one of the people that trains with her said that she's probably the best CrossFitter ever, male or female. Just combined everything. And he doesn't make a lot of compliments to people. So I was like, wow, that's pretty high praise.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, Matt's being a little bit more outgoing now that he's done with CrossFit. I enjoyed his Joe Rogan podcast. I mean, I enjoy Matt as a Northerner. I enjoy Matt. He's from Vermont. I'm from Rhode Island originally.
Okay.
So,
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, Rich is fantastic.
Yes.
I've competed against Rich a bunch. And he's just a great, I'm like, these people aren't like different people when you meet them.
Yep.
They're the same people. They are good people.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I enjoyed Fraser's podcast with Rogan too.
Yeah.
Some people thought he kind of crapped on CrossFit a little bit. I don't think it was that. I don't think they were trying to. I don't think he was trying to. I think Joe is not a fan of CrossFit.
Joe leads people into that. But I mean, what Joe does outside of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, he does CrossFit. I mean, it's just not called CrossFit.
Sure. The types of workets he does and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's HIIT training. I mean, it's essentially what CrossFit is. It's intervals,
Yep.
That's what all that is.
Yeah. But I also will say on Joe, because I listened to him off and on some, I also feel like he's not poo-pooing on CrossFit as much as he used to be. So I even feel like Joe's come around a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone is. There's some solid methodologies, and I think the biggest issue was the coaches and the owners who had zero experience and just spent $1,000 and opened an affiliate. Obviously it's more expensive than that, but $1,000 to get your L1. And like when I got my L1, there was a guy that had never done a CrossFit workout before, ever.
You mean he was there for his L1?
There for his L1,
and he'd never done a workout before. Would they give him an L1
if you pay $1,000 and pass a test?
Oh wow,
yeah,
huh.
So
that is odd.
At that point, he can then open an affiliate, and I think that's what the issue is with a lot of people's, especially like ISSA, CSCS, all those people who went to school for it, taking a bunch of tests. I just see a bunch of tests. Like I have a bunch of certifications. What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything if you can't apply it. So
right, yeah, and I hear that. I'm sure that there's plenty of people that open their affiliate and weren't good coaches and bad things happen. I've never seen it.
Yeah.
And I've never had anyone who has experienced it, like a friend who's experienced it that much, but I'm sure it's out there. But like you say, it's probably happening a lot less than it used to be. And I think that's part of the nature of the beast a little bit with CrossFit. I mean, if you look at how CrossFit has just kind of taken over the world, and it had to be enough structured and enough not structured, because if it was too structured, it wouldn't have grown like it did. I mean, it really, I think that some of the genius was just in not having it over structured, I think. Yeah. So,
well, I mean, owning an affiliate and having owned a store, a retail space that was a franchise. Two totally different things. Similar thought process, but two totally. I had to do in the franchise. You have to do things by the book. They have protocols. They have everything. And now with the affiliate, we get to run it the way we want to. If we want to run it as a clubhouse, then we can run it as a clubhouse. If we want to run it as a business, we can run it as a business. There's best practices, but there's nothing that's telling you that you have to do X, Y, and Z, to continue forward. We just got to pay our affiliate fee.
Yeah. Yep. Totally. Yeah. And you talk about bodybuilding earlier too. I mean, shoot, if I had to pick, the body makeup of a bodybuilder or Alex Smith, dude, I'd go CrossFitter any day of the week. I mean, it's just more fun. It's way more functional. Yeah. Okay. Let's jump into nutrition.
Cool.
This is going to be the central focus of our conversation. So here we go.
All right.
All right. What do you do with nutrition?
So I actually plan and program for people based on their goals and where they are and what their schedule is, what their body fat percentage is, what their weight is. There's a lot of metrics that go into it, but everything is really precise and built out for the individual.
And are these everyday people or are these elite athletes?
I'm both.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I've had 6 CrossFit Games athletes, probably a handful of NFL, Major League Baseball, UFC, pretty much every major sport. The majority of people are just people wanting to learn how to eat healthier.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you have, so you kind of have these 2 categories. It's the one, the elite athletes, and then the people looking to be more healthy and eat healthier and all those for those reasons. So you're working with them both, and this is very personalized, or you're releasing meal plans kind of out and then everyone kind of takes it?
Everything starts from scratch. So, because like I said about the squat, what we were talking about earlier, everyone is different. So why would you take a template and just pass it out? Like,
sure.
Now that's a good way to make a lot of money really fast and then not make money after that. But
yep.
You know, I think what it really comes down to is if I'm doing my job right, I work in 8-week increments. If I'm doing my job right, I'm teaching them how to do it so they can do it themselves, you know, and they may need the accountability. They may need, you know, adjustments to the plan because everything is going to adjust, but needs will change. But I mean, if I'm doing my job, they should be able to do all of it on their own. Okay.
And they're going to pay you monthly? It's almost like a subscription thing?
No, I don't do subscriptions. It's essentially you pay up front for the 8 weeks and then...
Okay. So you have this kind of 8-week program that people will go through. Now, how about for the elite athletes? Is that 8 weeks as well, or do you go longer?
It's a little different.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's based on season. Like, so, and Will is different than I've worked with, you know, Dave Hippensteel.
I don't.
He's like 65 plus champ, CrossFit champ. He's the most high energy guy I've ever been around. He's awesome. But like they have different needs. Training intensities have changed, and Will sends me his programming, and I look at it, and I'm like, all right, well, this is how we break out his program based on intensity. So that's kind of how I do Will. Now, Dave's is a little more concise and tight.
So with Will, he'll show you his programming, and then you're going to give him a meal plan based around his programming.
Essentially protocol.
Oh wow!
So I'll put a protocol together for him, so he's properly hydrated, properly fueled for all the intensity that they do. I mean, they work out for like 6 hours a day.
Oh, it's crazy.
I don't even know what the heck I would do with 6 hours of working out a day. That's like my whole week. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm too old for that.
I really want to dig in on then probably the nutrition advice for kind of the common people, but the athletes. So here's a question for you. I saw on Tia's Instagram that I think it might have been Street Horner bought this 5-pound bag of
gummies.
Sour Patch gummies, Sour Patch Kids or whatever. And they're like dipping into it after a workout. And I'll see Tia like multiple times they've gotten out and went out and got like $5 donuts or something. And I think she's even sipping some red wine at night. Like those things surprise me. Is it because though at that level you're working out 6 hours a day, you basically just need to get anything in your body that you possibly can? Or
well, you're looking at those gummies are going to be a fast burning carbohydrate. So it's going to absorb quickly into the bloodstream. It's going to disperse quickly for energy or for muscle glycogen. So you're going to have a fuel source there. And that's like what Fraser was talking about on the Rogan podcast. He's like, I was eating Snickers and drinking Cokes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Like, you're just like, that's crazy. But with the amount that they work out and the intensities at which they work out and they're dialed in, I mean, they just need calories mostly. Will eats a lot cleaner. He had a little kidney scare a little while back. So we have him eating a little cleaner than that. He's a little more precise.
No alcohol? Or can he drink some?
On occasion.
Okay.
I think that the older you get, he's 30. So the older you get, the less you really feel good if you have any alcohol.
Yeah.
Like, I don't drink.
Okay.
Because it just sucks the next day.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just not worth it to me to feel bad for a day.
Yeah. So that's an age thing? I didn't really know. I thought it was just...
Or I'm out of practice. I can't tell.
Yeah. I wonder, because I've just not drank much alcohol at all in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I don't have a problem with it. If I'm out at a restaurant, I'll probably have something. But that feeling, well, I think what you're talking about, that feeling the next day, or even when you have the extra beer and you kind of feel, I don't care for that feeling anymore.
No.
It's not really worth it. But okay. But having said that, a good cold beer, just the right time, dude, I'm still a sucker for that for sure.
Well, and I don't, if you're an adult, if you're over 21, I'm not going to tell you not to drink.
Sure.
I'd be like, hey, this is what drinking does. This is how many calories you're taking in from it. But you're an adult. I'm not here to police you on that. I'm going to tell you give you all the information so you can make the best decision possible.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm not going to slap food or beers out of people's hands.
Right.
So someone asked me to they're like, I wish you could just follow me around and slap my food out of my hands. I'm like, I don't think I'd want to do that. Yeah. That sounds terrible.
Yeah, that's probably not going to be helpful.
No.
Plus, I mean, let's be honest, that is legalism, right? And legalism doesn't change hearts. Well, because you can follow them around during the day, slapping food out of their hands. But what's going to happen when you're not there at night, or who knows? Then you haven't fixed the problem.
Yeah, I'm not going to stay at their house.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, there is that, and that's where the education process comes in for me. It's making sure that people are okay with asking questions. Like they're like, oh, I didn't want to bug you. I'm like, you paid me. Ask your questions. If you're at a restaurant, give me 5 minutes and tell me where you are. I can walk you through a menu. I mean, it's really personalized for the individual.
Are they texting you that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, that is highly personalized then. Wow. So you're getting text messages all kinds
all
of
the time,
all throughout the day and everything?
Nonstop.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Do you care for that?
I would rather the mask than
Okay.
guess. I hate guessing. I think guessing is the fastest way to fall off track. So if you have an answer, then you at least know the right choice. Now you may not choose that choice, but you know what you should have done.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Makes sense. Speaking of the Sour Patch Kids after the workouts and everything, only I don't know, in the last year, I would say 2 or 3 times I've come back. I like to go to the 11:30 class. So 12:30, it's over, shower, back here by 12:45 or so. And 2 or 3 times in the last year, it kind of had me out of my, it kind of had me in a brain fog sort of, I'm not fully understanding what I'm supposed to be doing right now. I don't have my full mental clarity for, hour and a half, 2 hours. I mean, the one time I remember it was Josh Scott podcast, and we did Pocketbook Thursday, which we shouldn't have, but it was like a 35-minute workout. We all put in $5 and pick a teammate out of a hat, and whoever wins gets the money. And I did that, and so you push hard for 35 minutes. And I came back, and it's like I was supposed to do this podcast, and dude, it was like, where am I? What day is it? What am I supposed to be doing? It was so bad. What is that?
The majority of people need carbohydrates. So if you were a little low that day, based on the intensity, you probably needed more. So that would normalize your blood sugar and keep you kind of steady. So it's essentially your blood sugar dropped, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I started doing, this is probably not something I should be doing, but Costco makes these guys, and
Those
they
look
are
good.
Wicked good.
Yeah.
Okay. But after I saw Tia eating, or those guys eating, obviously this is way different, right? I'm just working out for an hour. But what I started to do is when I get back from the gym, have one of these and a cup of coffee as a way to sort of get my energy back up quickly. It seems to be helping, but it is a chocolate a day. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, a chocolate, that's 21 carbs on that for 2. So you're taking in 10 and a half carbs. That's it.
Okay.
That's nothing. That's literally nothing.
Well, it's nothing in terms of carbs, but I mean, there's sugar in there.
There's sugar in there, but that's your body's going to process it and send it to where it needs to go. So if that's muscle glycogen, like I said, it's only 10 and a half carbs, which is probably 9 and a half sugar.
Okay.
But is that going to be the reason that you don't follow a plan properly? Probably not.
Okay.
And this is one of the things I tell all my clients, I'm like, one meal doesn't make the whole week.
Mm-hmm.
But if you say, oh, I already messed up here, F it, I'm going to just screw up the next day.
Yes.
Then that's where the problem comes in. So understanding that one meal will never be the reason this doesn't work is incredibly important, So it's not like Whole30 where you mess up once and it's game over.
Yes.
This is life. You have to accommodate life.
Yep. Okay. So, but if people are listening to this and like, yeah, I go to CrossFit too, and when I get back, maybe I'm going to start to eat a Snickers bar. I mean, we can't be advising that, right?
No, and I'm not advising that.
Okay.
You know, I eat extremely clean. I've been 200 pounds since 6th grade. I'm a bigger boned individual. I have to work on it every day. Like every day. I love food. I'm half Italian. I love food.
Okay.
You know, so, but like what it comes down to is I know my body well enough that if I don't dial it in, I'm not going to look the way I want to look. I'm not going to perform the way I want to perform. So most people don't care about that. They just want to look good. And I'm cool with that. Understanding at that point that, you know, one meal, one drink, one thing is not going to be the end all be all. That's incredibly important. Yeah.
Okay. So the feeling of, in this, and like I said, it was rare. It's only 2 or 3 times it was that bad, but there was a couple times where it was fairly bad. You think that's a drop in my blood sugar?
I believe so.
And that could have been helped by having more carbohydrates at that time, which is
before or after. I mean, usually
Okay.
45 minutes to an hour and a half beforehand. If it's a fast burning pre-digested carb, then your body's going to utilize it. If it's not pre-digested and fast burning, then you need it to be maybe 2 hours beforehand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is interesting about what you just said is I have been not eating until dinner for a year and a month or so, a couple months, over a year.
Not eating at all?
Yeah, like I haven't eaten today. After
a food meal, or like you talking like a candy or?
Oh, good point. I forgot about that. So I will wake up and come to the office, have 2 cups of coffee throughout the course of my morning, just black,
Okay.
and then go work out, come have a protein shake after the workout, and now in the last couple weeks, a chocolate, another coffee, and then I won't eat solid food until dinner time, and then I will eat a bunch till I'm full.
Yeah.
Till I'm full, and then I'll eat till I go to bed, which is probably not the best. But that schedule, it feels really good for me. But also last year I did the carnivore only for like 3 or 4 months. And so what you just said about carbohydrates actually could be, it's resonating because I haven't been eating many carbohydrates. So maybe that's been causing some of those brain fogs.
I think it's probably the biggest. So your body will become fat adaptive at that point. If you're starving it of carbohydrates, it's going to burn what it can burn. But some people take to that much better than others. Like my metabolism burns fat, like I think it said 98% better than carbohydrates. So I'm lower carb, higher fat. My protein's around 185 to 190, not like my body weight or anything like that. And I'm like 250 grams of fat, and the rest is carbs.
Okay. A day, you're saying?
Yeah.
Now, how do you know your body is better that way?
I did a couple different metabolic tests.
Okay.
Vital.com, and then I did 23andMe, combining the data,
okay.
the data that comes along with that. I'm about to do Inside Tracker because I kind of want to. I like to nerd out on that stuff.
Yeah.
So, I started using. So I bought that Lumen. You ever seen those things?
No.
It's like you blow into it, and it's like, oh, you're burning mostly fat right now. I'm like, this is like
No kidding.
some sort of wizard. I don't even.
Do you think it's accurate?
No.
Semi-accurate? Okay.
Not in the least.
Okay.
Yeah, the science just doesn't make any sense. Like, but I wanted to give it a try.
So your body works better eating more fat
Yeah.
than more, not necessarily more fat than carbs, but more fat than a normal than other people, or more fat than carbs.
I eat more fat than carbs.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
I'm at like 3,500 calories a day
for total.
total.
Okay.
I eat 3 times usually.
Okay.
So each meal is about 1,100 plus calories.
Okay. What time?
It depends on the day.
Okay.
So some days I'll fast a little bit, and maybe I'll eat at 10 or 11. Some days I'll eat at 6. For me, that matters less than making sure that I get the calories in.
Okay. Yeah. So you're having 3 meals a day. Timing can fluctuate a little bit. 3,500 calories, and that's more. The average person is like 2,500. Is that right?
Depends on what their output is and where their body fat is, but
Okay.
the average male is like 2,000 to 2,400.
Okay. And you're eating a lot of fat. Where are you getting that from?
Avocados, peanut butter, meat fats. I eat a lot of avocado.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love avocado.
Last night I just watched Fat Fiction. Have you ever seen that documentary on Amazon?
I've seen it on Amazon. I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, dude, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
I was so turned off by Game Changers. The whole, I mean, I just can't get behind it with what they were saying.
Yeah.
Now, if someone doesn't want to, doesn't like animal cruelty, I get it.
Yes.
Cool. If you have an issue with digestion, I get it. Cool. But if you're doing it just to be like cool,
Yes.
it's not cool.
I agree. But by the way, Fat Fiction would be in direct opposition to Game
Yeah.
Changers, because Fat Fiction it talks about how so far off the FDA and the U.S. government was in general with their food guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
They had us eating all these carbs,
Processed carbs.
and I looked it up, and the food pyramid from 1992 to 2005 has like 6 to 8 servings of 8 to 11 servings of bread, cereal,
gonna say
rice, and
grains,
pasta
yeah.
group. Yeah, 6 to 11 servings a day. Dude, and I'll tell you this right now. If I ate 6 to 11 servings of bread and cereal and rice and pasta,
I'd be 300 pounds.
dude,
Yeah.
my belly would be like, I don't even put on weight, but I would be soft.
Yeah.
My belly would be fat, and I would feel like shit.
Yeah.
But this is what we're all doing. So this is what you're supposed to be doing.
There's been
And then-
minimal amendments to it since then.
There's
too.
been very minimal amendments to it, and then when they make the amendments, they're not highly publicizing those. So the best thing, this is one of the points in that documentary, the best thing you could do with that food pyramid is tip it on its face.
100%.
Then you have a little better food pyramid. But what was so weird about that was then they went through this low fat craze.
Mm-hmm.
Low fat, low fat, low fat. Like fat gives you heart disease. Fat.
Mm-hmm.
So then everything in America, was this in like in the 60s, 70s, 80s maybe 70s or 80s. It was all about low fat. Now you had low fat chocolate milk. You had low fat Oreos. You had low fat junk food,
Well,
and it's being
I grew up on skim milk.
Dude, it's insane.
Yeah.
And so you're basically what you're doing is you're taking the fat out of the American people's diet and replacing it with sugar, which is, dude, you know how much you have to know about nutrition to understand that's not going to end well.
No, it's addiction.
And it didn't end well.
No.
Dude, did you know? So this is 71% currently of Americans aged 17 to 24 cannot join the military. And the biggest reason for that is obesity. Dude, we are becoming too fat to fight.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's for what we believe is the greatest country in the world. It's embarrassing.
It's so embarrassing.
And it's not even, it's okay. So they're not in shape. They don't like to work out. That the millennials, I guess I fall into that. Apparently I'm 82 is in there.
Okay.
But, they don't want to. They don't want to be physically active. They don't want to fight for this country. They don't.
Yeah.
They want to sit behind a keyboard and complain about shit.
Well, yeah, but dude, I would probably want to as well if I ate crap my entire life.
But yeah, you don't want to get up.
I mean,
You
it's
sit there.
it's a snowball effect.
It's like South Park when they were playing the video game.
Yeah.
Sitting there,
Exactly.
you never have to get up.
So legitimately, this guy, he kind of had an agenda behind this low fat, high carb thing. Ansel Keys was his name. And he was doing tests in countries that was going to give him the data that he wanted to show. I don't know what he stood to gain behind having Americans eating a more low fat, high carb diet. But they got it across. And legitimately, the FDA, I saw a video clip of whenever this was in the 80s or whenever it was, where they had a senator was around the room, and the one senator was basically saying, I'm not comfortable with coming out with these guidelines because we haven't yet done the rigor, the scientific data and research to prove this. And in that meeting, someone else said, but basically whoever was in charge, I hear your point, but we don't have time. This is time is of the essence. We have to make this change now because we had what appeared to be a heart disease endemic or pandemic or whatever going on in America. It was a big problem. And so they used this kind of justification or understanding that we don't have time to do more research. We don't have time to get the actual science on this. We have to come out with these guidelines now. And those guidelines were low fat, high carb. And it caused obesity and more heart disease and more problems. And so when you couple that with what happened with opioids. And the opioid production people said that this is not addictive. And the FDA said, yeah, I think you're right. And they also said at one point, this is not addictive. Well, guess what? Opioids, highly, highly, highly addictive. Just a couple of days ago, we had two ladies sitting on here talking about foster care and adoption. Of the kids coming into foster care in Tennessee right now, half, this was a wet finger in the air guess, but they know because they do this every day. Half of the people coming into foster care in Tennessee right now, you know what it's from? It's from opioids.
Yeah.
So guess what? The FDA didn't have it right then. So I just wonder with people, could you understand some hesitancy if someone has some amount of hesitancy around just outsourcing their health decisions to the FDA? If you look back on and I'm not saying they're always wrong, and I'm not saying they're trying to be wrong on purpose, but when it comes to, yet again, something's going on, we need to rush something to the market, we don't have time to do more research.
What's that sound like?
What does that sound like? Like, do you want to go ahead and get it? No problem. Do I want to rush out and get it? No. Not particularly. And if it be okay, I'd appreciate some level of understanding around that.
Yeah, but
is that unreasonable? Like,
apparently it is. And now I have an issue with the FDA because I owned a supplement store for almost 10 years, and they don't regulate the supplement industry. You can literally put whatever you want on a label.
I have heard this.
It's terrible. So the proprietary blends, things like that people put in there, they're like, oh, this has whatever. I don't know, citrulline malate in it, and it's got 5 grams. But the complex has 5 grams, and it's got like 16 different things in it. So you're pretty much lying to people from a regular basis. And when you look at something like as simple as whey protein, which is pretty studied, there's whey protein concentrate is anywhere from 30% to 80%. So that is a big range. So when people get bubble guts from something, it's probably on the lower end. Like, most people who have ever used any of the Synthesix products or BSM products have usually had a little bit of issue with nitrogen balance in their stomach being off from, being a lower quality of protein.
So, what are your thoughts on Ascent?
Huge fan.
Oh, really?
Huge fan.
Oh, okay, good.
I personally don't take a lot of supplements, but I mean, their main company is a cheese company. So the byproduct they're getting is directly from the source, which is fantastic.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
That
cool.
sounds good.
That's what Evan has, and he says it's really good. And so, okay. What are your thoughts on intermittent fasting?
I think there's a lot of great information and studies on fasting and how it could benefit the body. I think it's in direct opposition to the bro science myth of eat 6 small meals a day. I don't subscribe to that. I don't think it's necessary. Some people may need snacks because they're not getting enough calories in their meals. But the majority of people, you need to let your body digest and then do what it's supposed to do. Like, your body can help fix itself if you give it the time to. If it's constantly working on digesting, you're never going to be able to get back to a balance or a normal. If
you're always eating before it's had time to digest what you've already eaten?
Constantly digesting.
Okay.
So gastric emptying times every 2 to 3 hours. So if you're eating every 2 to 3 hours, then you're constantly digesting the whole day. And then what's your body doing? I mean, it doesn't have any chance to flush inflammation. It doesn't have any chance to repair sprains, tears, things like that. You really don't get the opportunity to be human.
So that would be one benefit of intermittent fasting. You'd for sure have that.
Yeah.
Now, how about sleeping at night? Does that not count? That's 6 or 8 hours where probably most people are not eating, right?
Most people aren't. I have some clients that wake up in the middle of the night and eat. I don't.
Okay.
I have to go downstairs if I want to do that, and that's just not happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that so normal intermittent fasting is 16-8. So you're eating for an 8-hour window, you're fasting for 16, and the majority of that 16 is sleep. So normal is 12 to 8 p.m. This is just standard. Now that moves around. I have a couple clients that start their day at 10, and I'm like, all right, so it's 10 to 6. They eat early. They're fine with that. It can move around as long as it's 16-8. And I think for females, it's 14 10. Yeah, because of hormone production and things like that. So
they can eat for a little bit of a longer window and still get the same benefits.
Similar benefits, yeah, because
similar. Okay,
where women, obviously, estrogen is a huge player in that. So letting the body regulate those hormones after meals is going to allow them the opportunity to balance.
So you have clients that do intermittent fasting, and then you help them know what to eat in their eating window, basically.
Yeah. So the way I break down food is how it affects the blood sugar in the bloodstream, how it hits. So the way I break everything out, there's protein, there's fats, and then there's 3 different types of carbs because they hit your bloodstream differently. So you have your fast burning carbs, your fruits, your sugars based natural foods. Obviously, we're not putting Snickers bars in there or anything like that. Slow burning carbs, which are like your rices, your starches, potatoes, and there's really nothing off the table. Like people are like, oh, well, should I stay away from gluten? I'm like, are you allergic to gluten? No. Okay, well just eat food. I mean, you'll be okay. And then there's fibrous carbs. So your green vegetables, your things like that. So
did you say fiber? What did you
fibrous.
Fibrous carbs. Okay.
So carbs essentially that are mainly fiber based.
Okay.
So the way I look at that is like, and this is one of the questions I get all the time. They're like, so I get most of my protein from peanut butter. I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. There's no way. Because there's 6 grams of protein and there's 16 grams of fat. So there's no way you get the majority of your protein from that unless you're eating like 12 grams of protein a day.
Yep.
So the way food is classified is incredibly important. So that's a fat that has protein.
Yes.
Rather than it's a protein and a fat. No, it's a fat.
Oh, okay.
That has
So you
protein.
view peanut butter as this is a fat that has protein in it. I see. Okay.
Yeah. And it's a good fat. And I mean, I'm fine with, peanut butter, almond butter, cashew butter, whatever, sunflower butter. It doesn't really matter to me. All those are about the same. So.
Okay. All right. So do you recommend intermittent fasting, or you're just okay with it if someone has tested it and it seems to be working well for them?
If someone tested it or wants to test it, I'll show them how to do it. If someone's been doing it, then I'll show them how to continue to do it. But I don't throw it out there. Most people just need to be balanced.
Really?
The majority of people come in and I'm like, you eat 0 fat. Like that's a problem, or you eat no carbs. You probably need to up that, so I give them a good balance to start. And then every 2 weeks we meet. So I tweak the plan based on what the results are. So I go off an InBody. I have an InBody 270 at my office.
What is that?
It's a biometric impedance. It's like if you go to NutriShop, they have those machines you stand on, you put your hands on, you look like a goof.
Okay.
There. Yeah. It's the most awkward way to stand as you possibly could. But it gives me body fat percentage, skeletal muscle mass, body weight, resting metabolic rate, water, how much total body water you have. I mean, it gives me enough data to build out a program and have some, data points for each time they come in.
I see.
So then we're showing progress on multiple different levels rather than just being like, oh, you lost 5 pounds. Because I could give a shit about weight. Excuse me, could I swear?
Yeah, it's world.
Sorry.
I'm not going to tell your mom.
All right. Well, my mom swears more than I do. I coach kids classes, so I'm like, oh my god, did I just swear?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I could care less about weight. People are like, oh well, I would like to weigh. I'm like, you're gonna weigh what you're gonna weigh at a right body fat, And if you think 125 is your weight and you settle at 130, but you fit into all your clothes, you're gonna be okay. Yeah. I mean, there's multiple different things that matter more than what a scale says. It's like It's like wondering what the internet thinks about me. I don't give a shit.
Yes, exactly. Totally agree with that. 100%.
Yeah.
For whatever weird reason, I've never put on weight. Like when I would stop working out or fall off and just get too caught up at work and not CrossFit for like 6 months or whatever, and not even eat the greatest, I get soft in my gut. But I don't put on weight. I actually lose a little bit of weight. So I've just never paid much attention to my weight, and I've never paid any attention, not even a little bit, to calories. I have no idea how many calories I eat. And so I think I have room for improvement on that front. I'd actually be very interested in, maybe I just need to go through your program because I'd kind of like to bulk up. But I've not paid, but also, okay, maybe I should pay more attention to my caloric intake. But when people are counting their calories and it's like they're just trying to stay under 2,000 calories, and so like this Coke is however many calories, and this cheeseburger, and then this ice cream, and this chocolates, dude, And, I mean, the answer to that is, guys, stop it, right? Just stop it.
The whole if it fits your macros thing is taken out of context. So people are like, oh, well, I can eat donuts and pizza. I'm like, sure you can. But like, if you eat a pizza and you have, say a female has 15 to 1700 calories and you eat a whole pizza, you can't eat the rest of the day. Mm-hmm. Like, how does that make sense? That it doesn't. So the reason it was created was to allow people to eat what they want within a calorie level, like on occasion. Like, so say you're going out to eat for an anniversary, you could just, all right, well, I'm going to pull back here so I can eat like this meal that we're having here. Mm-hmm. It wasn't meant to be like, hey, let's celebrate shitty food.
Exactly.
I'm going to eat Pop-Tarts and donuts all day. And
as long as I keep it under the total calorie count for the day, I should be fine.
Yeah. So a lot of people think like that food quality doesn't matter. They're like, all right, well, I'll just stick with my calories and I'll be okay. But food quality matters. Like for internal function, you need good, nutritious food.
Oh, yeah.
If you're eating like protein bars and shakes all day, I mean, you're not getting what you need. You're getting a bunch of processed food that has pretty much no nutrient value.
Yes. Why is that so hard to understand? Because every time people go to the gas station and fill up their car, they have the option of 87 something or 93, whatever the fuel options are. And there's diesel, and no one really runs good on diesel except for the trucks or whatever and the Volkswagens. But even at the gas station, we understand there's a lower quality fuel, a medium quality, and a high quality fuel. There is a precedent for this to be out there. It shouldn't take that much understanding to understand that eating 2,000 calories of those chocolates a day is going to be different than eating 2,000 calories of, my cow in the backyard that I cut up and ate. Yeah. I mean, extreme. Why is this so hard to understand?
So we've been taught that less is best a lot. We've been taught that. I mean, it's precedent. The thing we're talking about right there with carbohydrates being refined carbohydrates being the base of a pyramid. Mm-hmm. We've been told that, it doesn't really matter what you eat if you just eat kind of like this. And it does. So like I can't eat like some of my clients do because it doesn't react well with my body, but they can't eat like I do either. And I don't push that on anyone. I think the biggest issue that we come across is, I have a lot of female clients. Like I would say probably the majority of my clients are female. But they don't eat. Like I have a bunch of like little girls, like, and I say little girls, they're younger than me, but they're like little people. And they're like 130 pounds and 5'4", and they work out an absolute like 2 hours a day, and they're eating like 1,200 calories, and you're just like,
whoa,
what's going on? Well, I want to get leaner. I'm like, well, it's not going to work that way. That's just not how you do things. Like it works to a point and then it goes backwards.
Okay, can you talk about that? Why that is? Because I think you're now touching on something that, I feel like Nick and Dwight from Proven were talking about, which is that some people think you just need to up your exercise, lower your food, but at some point you actually get not just diminishing returns, but it starts to work against you because your body starts to kind of go into a mode. Maybe you can speak to this, but I think what they were saying was sometimes you actually increase your overall food that you're eating. Maybe it's different food. Maybe, I forget if they said that or not, but you actually increase the food a little bit, get the body what it needs, and then you actually can sometimes lose weight or be in a much better place physically. What's going on with all of that?
So your metabolism is your regulator. So that's where you burn the amount of calories you burn. So if you're eating too much of a deficit for too long, your metabolism drops. It'll slow down to accommodate the lower amount. So initially, eating restricted schedule for like, say you're doing it for 2 weeks, you're going to see some gains or losses, whatever you're looking for. But at some point, your body's like, I mean, our human body is the most complex machine out there. So if you look at it that way, it's going to adapt. It adapts to the food level that you're eating. And then slowly your metabolism slows down and you start gaining fat from the amount of food that you're eating or not eating, So your body will start to store. And once the muscle glycogen is full, everything goes to process through the liver as carbohydrates processed through the liver as fat. So, and then it's stored. So and that's kind of like why that doesn't work, So I'm sure they talked about Brooke, and she was only eating like 2,500 calories last year, training for 6 hours. And I asked her about it. So she told me what she was eating. And then now she's eating way more than that. And she's actually as lean as she was.
Yes.
And her performance is same spectacular way.
Yes.
So.
She said, okay, that's a great example because I think she even had this on her social media or something.
The macro stack stuff.
Yeah. So it's not private information. So she, 2,500 calories a day, working out 6 hours a day. Now she's eating more. Do you know what she's eating?
I don't.
Okay. But she's eating more.
Yeah.
Is she eating different types of foods or it's just more?
I think it's just, I don't know. I think it's just more. I do Sydney's nutrition, and she was only eating originally like 1,800 calories, and she works out a lot. She's extremely fit. Now, the thing about that, and this is what I'm talking about with the 1%, they can get by doing that because they're that good. But I bumped her up like immediately to 2,100 calories, and she was already leaner.
Wow.
Like, it's impressive.
Wow. This is, So there you go. She's eating more food and she's more lean. And this is because the body is healthier.
You're hitting it at a level where you're not at a deficit. You're not at like this massive deficit. So if it's like 1,000 calorie deficit, okay, let me back up. The whole thought process of calories in versus calories out. Like if you eat less than you burn, then you're going to lose weight. That's the thought process. And that's true to a point. So at some point it's like, all right, well, the body is going to adapt. It's going to drop that level down. So all of a sudden you're eating too much for that level and you start to store.
I see.
Yes. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, with someone like Brooke that, they're 25, both of them are 25. My metabolism didn't work the way theirs works ever. So, I don't personally understand it, but understanding the science of it, eventually it'll catch up.
Yeah. Let's talk about carbs for a little bit because I don't know, I could be wrong. I mean, you would actually know much better than I, but in some ways I almost feel like carbs were having a little bit of a renewal or a little bit of
renaissance.
Like renaissance, a little bit. Is this accurate?
Yeah, I don't have any problem with carbs. I think people need carbs. I think people need the right carbs. I think they need them at the right times of day to utilize those carbs. So like, I don't pull those things away from my clients. Like if you're working with someone that removes a whole food group, then you're in the wrong place because it's not sustainable. Sustainability is what the whole goal should be. We should be able to add calories to a point of maintenance. When you hit your point where you're like, I feel like I look good. This is what I want to look like. This is what I want to feel. Then we bump your calories up just a little bit, keep you at a maintenance, and then you can hang out there. And the leaner you are, the more fun you can have. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. Like I have some lean clients that, they like to go out on the weekend. They like to have a good time, and then they get back to it during the week.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. So I feel like is this where it depends on the person? Because I feel like for me, I'm seeing some of the things about carbs. I want to say Brooke Wells mentioned it when she was talking about her caloric intake. Maybe not. There was like 2 or 3 places where these are legit people. I don't even remember who they were, but they were talking about carbs in sort of a positive light. Yeah. And I'm sure they weren't talking about carbs from bad sources, but good carbs. And so I'm open to that. I just feel like from knowing my body and everything, my body doesn't do great on a bunch of carbs.
Yeah.
I think I do feel much better on more fat and protein and still carbs, but
75% of the population burns carbs as their primary source of energy. So, there's a small percentage that doesn't, that burns fats. And I'm part of that. Sounds like you might be part of that. That doesn't mean we don't eat carbs. It just means we don't eat in abundance. Like I went through I like to go through 8 weeks on my own, like all the fads that are out there. So I went through 8 weeks of keto, turned into 2 years of keto.
Oh, wow.
And it just worked for me. Like it was probably it was 2018, 2019. It was like my best CrossFit years. I felt great. It's just not sustainable long term. Like I'm low carb, but I'm not keto anymore. But I went through 8 weeks of eating 400 grams of carbs a day, and I was like up to 217. I didn't look the same. I'm like a 205 to 208. And it was just, you learn a lot about yourself when you run through all this stuff. Like I've run through everything that's out there, except for the raw food diet. I did that for 3 days and it was awful.
Eat only raw food?
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
But what even could you eat though?
It's just a bunch of like uncooked vegetables. And yeah, it was not.
So it's basically like vegan.
Yeah, it was not tasty.
Oh wow, yeah. Have you ever done the carnivore diet, meat diet?
I mean, keto is kind of like that.
Yeah.
So sort of.
Okay.
But I know there's a couple people that I follow that tout that as like the way to heal the body. Really, it's just low carbs, low inflammation diet. So like kind of like almost like a Mediterranean style.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when I was looking back over my journal yesterday in preparation for this podcast, and I remember where I was sitting. It was April the 7th, 2020. I had just eaten something and I felt sick. I would eat, and then 15 to 20 minutes after I'd eat, I would just feel sick.
Yeah.
And this happened on April the 7th, and I was like, dude, I'm over this. I'm done with this. And I tried carnivore for 1 week a year before that, and so I went carnivore and then just stuck with it for most of the last summer.
Yeah.
Felt so good. And I'm not doing it now. Now I'm actually at the place where I can pretty much eat what's in front of me and I don't feel sick.
Yeah.
But I do feel like I kind of do feel like it healed my gut a little bit. So I don't know what's behind that. Maybe it's the low inflammation stuff that you're talking about.
It's a lot of low inflammation. It's the good bacteria that you're getting in there. It's digesting that meat. You seem to probably digest meat well, which is good. Some people don't.
Okay.
So the carnivore diet wouldn't work for some people.
Makes sense.
But I mean, the gut biome is, a lot of people have called it the second brain. So it'll tell you exactly what you need to know. You'll
feel.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, your body will tell you what's going on if you want to listen.
And so that was meat and dairy, and so I had yogurt and eggs and cheese and meat. And so snack was bacon and cheese and yogurt. Evan taught me something that I still use. It's just one of the best snacks ever, bro. Ground beef mixed with Fage yogurt with hot sauce.
That's not something I would probably
try it, man. Yeah. It is so good. I
don't know, man.
It doesn't sound good, but it's super tasty. So I would have that as a snack, and man, I just felt really good. Okay, carbs. Back to that. So carbs, basically, what would you? It just out of the gate, just kind of lump is like, man, let's not be eating too much of that when it comes to carbs. And what would be some that you would say, let's try to move towards some of this?
Like stay away from?
Yeah, carbs you'd stay away from, and carbs you'd want people move towards.
It really depends, like person to person.
Okay.
Some, like I said, some people handle gluten, some people don't handle gluten. What we put in there essentially is I try to, if someone's looking to lose weight, I will carb cycle them through the day. So we'll have everything at breakfast. So you have your fast burning, your slow burning, your fibrous carbs at breakfast. And then at lunch, we'll remove the fast burning carbs. So the insulin spike, we'll remove that. So you take out the fast burning carbs, you have your slow burning carbs and your fibrous carbs. And if they're really trying to cut back on weight, I'm still going to give them enough calories, but I'll pull the slow burning carb out and give them double vegetable at dinner. So it's just kind of a cycle through the day to allow for the body to process those carbohydrates and, utilize them rather than having them just sit there and then be processed improperly.
I see. When you're talking with clients, how do you know whether they would work better on kind of a high fat diet, lower carb, or vice versa?
I ask the question.
Okay.
How do you feel after you eat carbs?
Oh, yeah.
How do you feel after you eat fats? Do you feel sluggish? Do you feel energized? And a lot of that's going to factor in because I base everything off their schedule because I found if I change their food and their schedule, it's a shit show. It's a disaster. But then, so I stick to their schedule and I try to fill in the gaps. So if they're like, yeah, I had a salad with grilled chicken and no dressing. I'm like, so you had bunch of grass and some meat. Like you need something, you need to balance that. So I'll put together a balance for them rather than being like, oh, well, yeah, you can just keep eating that because that's clearly working. You know, it's clearly not. If they're sitting across from me, what they're doing is not working. And I have to tell them that.
Okay.
I'm like, they're like, well, I normally do this. I'm like, you're here because you normally do that, not like that didn't reach your goals. So we got to find a way to do it, you know, whatever that looks like. And it's different. Like I said, and I can't stress it enough. Every person is unique in that manner that they're going to handle food differently. Yeah.
Yeah. Since last fall, I feel like with just eating more, whatever is put in front of me, and my wife cooks extremely healthy, so that's really good. But I feel like so far this spring, I'm bulking a little bit more than I was last summer, which I like. So, and that would stand to reason, right? If you're going to eat only meat, you may not bulk as much, or wouldn't there be a science behind that?
I mean, it's going to come down to calories.
Okay.
You know, whether you're putting on size, muscle, or whatever, you're going to have to be fueled properly to do so.
Okay.
So if that's what's happening, then you're probably eating a caloric level that's at or just slightly above where you probably need to be, or where your metabolism is.
Yep.
Which is fine. You know, if that's the goal, then that's what you're looking for.
How would you find out what your metabolism is? Like, how would you find out how many calories you're kind of burning a day so that you know whether you want to eat more? Or...
Well, there's your resting metabolic rate, which is what your body burns essentially if you laid in bed all day and did nothing. So that's one number. Then you have your non-exercise activity something. It's NEAT. It's called NEAT. And then you factor in your exercise, your TDEE, and that all those numbers together will give you. No one wants to do the math.
Sure.
So that's why I have a job.
But there is a math behind it.
There is math.
You can do the math, and you can say, this is what you're burning on a 24-hour cycle. Okay.
And I mean, like I said, we were talking about the Whoop. It'll give me a calorie level. I don't trust it. Like yesterday, I was at 4,000. I don't know what I'm at right now. 4,000 plus calories burned.
Okay.
And then like right now I'm at.
How does it know that? Your heart rate? Okay.
Yeah, heart rate. I mean, 2,400 right now, and I've worked out twice. Yeah. So it's just, I feel like sometimes it's guessing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because if you worked out twice a day, you probably burn more than 2,400 calories.
Yeah.
Though, right?
I don't really think this factors in. So this doesn't factor in body fat percentage. So the leaner you are, the more calories you're going to burn. So when you have a lower body fat percentage, you should, be burning more calories than someone who has a much higher body fat percentage. So, but yeah, it doesn't factor that in.
One of the things that documentary was saying, Fat Fiction, that I was watching last night, was that it had to do with diabetes and insulin. And when you eat carbs all the time, you eat carbs and then it kind of burns up the carbs and then you get hungry and you have this drop in blood sugar. And so then you eat more carbs and your blood sugar spikes. It burns it up and you have this drop. And that can actually, like, there was one guy who was a doctor, and in his 11 years of practice, he had never once had anyone that came in and saw his practice that was able to get off of insulin. And in the first...
He's never had someone get off insulin?
Let me just pull this up.
That's not a good doctor.
Yeah, this guy had never gotten any of his patients off of insulin when following the government guidelines. But in the first 5 months of prescribing a low-carb, high-fat diet, he had 11 patients come off of insulin altogether, which speaks to basically what's happening. They were saying this in the documentary. When you have this high-fat, low-carb, it basically kind of like unlocks these cells, and the fat can kind of basically get out and burn properly. Otherwise, it's like locked in. But the whole point was, when you eat carbs, blood sugar spike, then drop. Spike, drop, spike, drop, spike, drop. And people do this all day long. And I know what that feels like. Because, I mean, when I was on the meat diet, man, the one thing I noticed is a steady, consistent energy flow all day. It's the single most thing I like the best, aside from just feeling well. And if I were to have a pizza at lunch, which I never do this, I mean, I'll have pizza occasionally, but it's almost never for lunch.
Yeah.
Dude, I'll get so tired at 2 p.m. I'll just feel like this sluggish, like this drop in energy. That's totally from the carbs burning off. So, but we have a 10-year-old in the house who is sometimes a little edgy, and I mean, he's a great kid, but he's preteening pretty hard. And when I was watching this documentary, I was thinking about how often, because he eats a ton. He's coming in the fridge for some bread and some peanut butter, and then he's coming in later for some more bread. And like the dude's eating a lot of carbs, and maybe this is like spiking his blood sugar, and maybe that's behind some of the temperament problems if he's having the spike that he's dealing with.
Blood sugar has a direct impact on hormones and output. So like that's why my goal with working with people is to balance out their blood sugar, keep that steady all day. And that is with carbs. So the funny thing about science and food is that it's pretty much undefeated, you know? So what you do is you take like a fast burning carbohydrate or a slow burning carbohydrate and couple it with 8 to 16 grams of fat. And that dulls that insulin effect. So instead of spiking straight up and down, it's going longer up and down. So it's going to be more consistent energy at that point. So anytime I have a client that is like, hey, I love fruit. I need fruit. I'm like, all right, well, that's fine. Just need to couple it with a fat to keep your blood sugar steady. And that'll delay the absorption into the bloodstream a little bit. Yeah.
Then how did you ever hear of Jesse Itzler, who kind of made like Fruit Till Noon popular? He is Sarah, I think her name was Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. He is her husband, and he had an audiobook. It's actually really great. Now I can't remember what it was called. This is a few years ago it came out. He actually had David Goggins living with him for like several months. Anyhow, he kind of made
been crazy.
So crazy. But he was like a runner, and he kind of made the whole thing of like eating fruit till noon semi-popular. I remember doing it for a stretch and hearing about it. This was like in 2015 or 16. But what's happening if someone's just eating fruit till noon? I mean, they're spiking their...
It's the same thought process. Yeah, you're going to spike your insulin, and then you're going to drop your insulin. I mean, it's going to constantly go up and down if you're not coupling it with the right things.
Okay, which could have some negative impacts for sure, right?
Hormonal impacts. I mean, it could have mood impacts. People get hangry. I mean, if you're only eating fruit, then there's some people that don't really react well to being hungry.
Okay, so wasn't aware there was a tie with the hormones and blood sugar. So blood sugar levels, levels or the spiking,
the steadiness of it, not necessarily where your metabolism is or where that level is, as long as it's steady. Like if you're at a balance, your body is going to be in a much better place than not at a balance. Because it's constantly looking to find homeostasis. So if you're constantly at 85% or 75% by going up and down, you're putting your body and your hormone levels at risk.
Wow. And so,
which is where fasting comes in really well.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so then what do the hormones drive? If blood sugar is affecting the hormones, what are the hormones driving?
Mood, weight gain, disease, like all that stuff. I mean, that's where so the hormones get out of control, and all of a sudden you have, heart disease, or, you have cortisol levels are way through the roof, and your blood pressure's up, and you have to go on blood pressure meds. Like I've had a lot of clients come off type 2 diabetics come off the majority of their insulin. I've had blood pressure meds taken down, and that's just by balancing food. It's not there's no miracle. Like if people wanted to do this research, they could do my job. It's just a matter of making sure that I do everything for the individual properly. Man,
well, what's so crazy about that? If there's a correlation from blood sugar to hormones to mood, heart disease, vitamin C is something that people we should have enough of vitamin C right now with COVID flying around. It's impacting people that don't have enough of vitamin C.
Calcium.
I'm sorry. That's what I meant to say.
D and calcium.
Yes.
Calcium helps the absorption of D.
Yes. And D is basically, it's more of a hormone affecting thing, is my understanding.
It's from the sun. So essentially it's sunlight, and your body converts that to vitamin D. Which I'm never outside, so I probably have the lowest vitamin D ever.
Do you supplement with vitamin D?
I do.
Okay. I do too. I have since before COVID, and then when I heard that, I just do a little bit more. Man, that's interesting correlation there, because then you could. So I know for sure that vitamin D has this correlation with COVID, because it is more of a hormone than vitamin. And so if vitamin D has this impact on hormones, which has a very clear and shown effect with COVID, you could tie, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but do you think you could tie someone's impact from COVID then back to eating and carbs? If eating carbs,
Poor
blood
eating
sugar,
habits.
hormones
Yeah.
could tie into COVID.
Well, because it's all into that, falls into that comorbidities, they were talking about. So the people that are more at risk, your type 2 diabetes, your heart disease, your people with high blood pressure, your older generation of folks, the people that are not healthy, like you were talking about that, the pyramid and how government is pushing that as they're making us weaker.
Yeah.
They are systematically taking away our choice and putting this in front of us or at least seeming like they're taking away our choices, and they're not giving us the proper information to fix it. They're making us compliant.
Yes. And that's a fact, because we're seeing now some of this information finally now about, there's just on so many levels that we're starting to see some of the actual science behind it, which is making not much sense with what we were hearing.
No.
And even back to the food pyramid, the American Heart Association. Oh, this was another thing that was on that documentary last night, was you'd see the freaking American Heart Association little check mark, you know what I mean? Even today, you can walk a cereal aisle.
Cheerios.
Stinking Cheerios, American Heart. But it's not, doesn't just stop on Cheerios, dude. It's on junk food that has the American Heart Association check mark. All that is basically it's saying, well, this is low fat.
Yeah.
Have all the sugar in the world. It's the worst trade-off you're ever going to get. Now, and what's weird about that is, the American Heart Association was just this little basically nonprofit in America that was just doing its thing. It didn't gain traction until, guess who? Johnson & Johnson gave it a huge donation, and then it became this big thing, and now everyone wants to have the American Heart. You feel like you're going to be heart healthy if you eating something with that has that check mark on it.
Normally, if you follow the money, you'll find the reason why something is the way it is. So, like looking at the low carb or low fat, they were trying to control the sugar, essentially, like Coca-Cola, big sodas, things like that. They were trying to control where we put our interest.
Yes.
And then, but we should be supporting dairy farmers and the people who make a living doing this, not the people who sit at the top of a building and create poison.
Yes, 100%, because that's what a lot of it is too.
Well, so my wife used to work in addiction. She not an addict. She was what they call a normie. But she was, she worked in it on a daily basis. She worked for Nashville Recovery Center, and the same reactions that people had to drugs, they have to sugar, like withdrawal, shakes, headaches, all that stuff. It's so similar. And people would be like, oh, well, sugar's not the same as a recreational drug or whatever. It has been a recreational drug for the past, 50, 60, 70 years.
Yep.
So how is it different? It's not.
Yep.
It's not. People become addicted to it.
Yes, 100%. Dude, and sugar is way more deadly than... It kills more people in this country than all illicit drugs combined.
Yeah. Well, I don't understand why Tennessee hasn't passed the marijuana law yet, because that is the science behind that stuff is fantastic too. I know we're getting into weird things now.
Yeah, I'm good with weird things.
Like, man,
the science behind cannabis?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
And takes away inflammation. Prior to my wife working in recovery, she had the traumatic brain injury. And the inflammation and I'm a proponent of THC gummies and things like that helped her headaches. Like,
really?
It's a fact. She felt better when she took it.
I'm not shocked at all.
No.
By the way, we should talk about cannabis. It's 420.
Yeah.
We only get one of these a year, right?
I'm a huge fan.
Are you really?
I don't I don't smoke it or anything like that.
Okay.
Obviously, I don't want to affect my lungs or
Yep.
anything like that.
Do you stick with edibles then?
I am a fan of gummies, so I try to stay away from baked goods because I'm not a big sugar person.
Okay.
But gummies, like little gelatin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read, there's a book over here that you might be interested in reading or listening to the audio version if there is one, called The Cannabis Manifesto.
Mm-hmm.
Really great book.
Yeah.
The best book I've read on the subject. It was written by Steve D'Angelo, who was early on with legalization in California.
Mm-hmm.
And the single best takeaway I got from that book was he basically refuses the categories of medicinal and recreational, and says the category should be basically proper use and misuse.
Agreed.
And I fully agree with that.
Yeah.
It makes total sense. I mean, dude, I'd be curious to hear what your thoughts are around its benefits and so forth. I think it's shocking the American people haven't risen up and taken back our government for this reason, among with many others. To think that you can have this plant that has been grown for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and no one has ever died from using it, and there's so many medical benefits from it, and it can alleviate human suffering. And it's not the magic plant. Nothing really is magic, but there is a lot of actual benefits from it, physical, mental. I mean, we could go down the list. And to say that that's going to be illegal because back in the day, black people were mixing with white people in jazz bars and smoking together, and that was part of the motivation behind making this thing illegal, is absurd. It's just absurd.
I'm surprised that hasn't come up as like this should be legal now because we're not trying to segregate people anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely, for sure.
Maybe people will do that now. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's absurd. I think there's a lot of false information out there. I think a lot of it's going away. Where do you see the benefits though with cannabis? I
mean, muscle aches, pains, inflammation in general. I mean, I eat a pretty low inflammatory diet, but I'm still working out an hour to 2 hours a day and a lot of squatting, my knees, my shoulders. Played college football, so everything hurts from then, because we didn't know what we were doing back then. And that was only in the 2000s.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I mean, better sleep, depending on if you're going to do an indica or sativa, whatever works best for you. But yeah, I mean, I think the benefits far outweigh any negative. And some people would say, oh, well, it's a plant, so is cocaine, but it's a little different.
Yeah, it's a lot different. I don't know a ton about cocaine, but you're doing different things with it. There's different effects on the body.
Well, you don't cut marijuana with chlorine and all the stuff that they cut it with.
That's for starters.
You just smoke a little flower, a bud.
Yes.
I mean, or whatever. So
how bad do you think smoking cannabis is for your lungs?
I mean, it's probably not as bad as nicotine, and definitely not as bad as vaping, because like that some toxic metals are getting absorbed into your lungs, and that's what the issue with COVID is, and putting people on ventilators is they're worried about metal settling in the lungs. That's what vapes do. I mean,
yeah, good point. Do you use it every day then?
No.
Okay.
Just when I feel like I need it. Like if I really need to get some sleep, or if I really am feeling beat up.
Yeah.
I've been pretty lucky. I feel really healthy right now. So I don't use it all the time, but it's one of those things where if it's going to benefit me, and I mean, it's not going to hurt me in any manner. Yep. I mean, I'll look into it, and I'll do what I need to do.
Yeah, I'm still looking for the reports or the data or the science or whatever. Science is kind of an overused word now, but behind the damage that it does do, supposedly, or could do, or might do, or I don't know. I'll tell you this though, I have a friend who lives right over here, 75, 76 years old, Vietnam War vet, and the nicest guy, and he smokes all day, and he has ever since he was 15, 18. And well, it was whenever he came back from the war, which he was super young when he went into the war. And he was dealing with a lot of PTSD. Mm-hmm. And that dude, I mean, this is, call it 20 and now he's 75. 55 years he's been doing this. And it's not like once a day in the evening. This isn't all day, okay? Yeah. Dude, this dude is sharp. He is articulate. Mm-hmm. He's conversant. I mean, either he's got like some sort of different weird thing going on where that doesn't affect him, or maybe it's not so bad after all.
Well, a lot of that. It's not so bad, and the type of strain that you use like sativa is more of a heady. So you're actually going to be aware and good. You're not going to pass out on the couch or anything like that. You're going to be able to do what you do, just a little more clarity, a little more calm. And then indica is the one that puts you to sleep.
I've also noticed a theme with people that have dealt with health issues that was directly helped by cannabis, and that changing entirely their perception of it. And unfortunately, it's still. I mean, I know of one case where their kid had awful seizures, dude. And I can't imagine. Like, I cannot imagine seeing my 4-year-old son having a seizure on the bathroom floor. Like, I can't. The trauma that must put you through as a parent and that kid. I mean, it's awful. Yeah. Awful. Multiple things. Nothing helped. Cannabis, done. Hasn't had a seizure since.
That's awesome.
You know what? Is it legal? No. It's not legal in the state. There's a freaking kid on the floor having a seizure, and you can't technically, legally give that poor kid cannabis to help its seizure. Now explain that. It makes zero sense, dude. It makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And honestly, I was against using any sort of illicit drug, I guess you could say, until my wife had her accident, and I saw the benefit of her head feeling better. I don't know how people could feel comfortable seeing a seizure and knowing that there's a way to fix it, and that's illegal.
Exactly.
Like that is heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking,
especially as a parent. I saw my wife have one, and it was the worst day of my life. Ugh. So I couldn't imagine my child doing it all the time.
Exactly. Oh, I mean, it's unbelievable. I know there is I can't say like a trend or this is a common thing, but I know multiple ex-NFL players are now getting involved in the cannabis industry in legal states, Colorado or wherever. Because
I love traveling to Colorado.
Yeah. Well, they've experienced the benefits. I think it's particularly something about the NFL with the head stuff and the cannabis helping that.
It's the inflammation.
Is that what it is?
The inflammation that it takes down from, and those guys, you got to figure, if you have a moderate to long career, that means you've played 4 years in high school, 4 years in college, and then X amount of time in the NFL. All they've done is have small car crashes on a daily basis, and I played through college, and I had concussions throughout college, and we didn't know what we were doing back then, so I just went right back in the game.
Yeah.
And that's a worry. Like, I won't even watch that movie Concussion. It's now my wife had that, so it's like, good Lord, like, I hope that I don't have CTE at all.
Yeah.
But the inflammation and what the cannabis or the marijuana does is it alleviates some of that. It's like a natural occurring anti-inflammatory. Obviously there's other things you can take, a variety of things that'll allow for less inflammation. But in terms of one thing, that's highly beneficial and has minimal downside.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
There's a lot of misunderstanding about it. I had a guy in this office about a year ago, and I love this dude so much, but he was just like, there's no proven medical benefits to cannabis, but there is to alcohol. I was like, dude, you're working on information that's like 20 years old, bro. Like,
there's medical benefits to alcohol?
Well, dude, back in the days of after the Prohibition or whenever it was, yeah, they were coming out and saying there's some medical benefits to alcohol. You know who probably was behind that? The lobbyists.
How come gyms closed, but liquor stores and strip clubs stayed open?
Yeah.
Like,
Did strip clubs stay? No, they did not.
they did.
And
Ask the Crazy Horse down here by
What?
Forte. Yeah. Like those were places that you could still go during COVID. I mean, what's dirtier than a strip club? I don't know. There's not much. Like my gym is cleaner than those places.
My gosh, yeah, for sure.
You know, I mean, those are the things that stayed open. You know, you also had, obviously I want restaurants to thrive and grow, but like the use of DoorDash and Grubhub and all those things went way up. So people are just sitting in their homes, not being active, eating food that is processed.
Yes.
While
Drinking alcohol.
and Netflixing
Oh, yeah.
all day.
What could go wrong?
Yeah. It's
Getting
it
less
sounds like,
vitamin D because they're inside.
It sounds like a culling of the herd, honestly.
I mean, do you think there's any sort of weird thing going on with this?
I mean, conspiracy theorists would say yes. I have a buddy that's like, he's a great CrossFitter. He's gone to the games a couple times. He's fantastic. And he's also one of the most intellectual people that I've ever been around. And he will go down these rabbit holes where I'm just like, what are you talking about? But he believes that there's a lot going on behind the scenes.
Does he think it's culling of the herd before China takes over, or?
I mean, you think about it, the whole strongest survive.
Yeah.
And I don't want to look at it that way because I value life.
Yeah.
Like I really do. And I feel like if people valued their lives more, this wouldn't even be an issue. Mm-hmm. But, you know, everyone's worried about, you know, making $1 rather than taking care of themselves.
Yep.
So.
Yep. I agree with that. Yeah. And that's where I think it's hard for me to understand the thought process where someone is maybe has a lack of understanding if they ask me if I've gotten the vaccine yet, and they're thinking, well, man, I don't care about other people. Dude, you know how much of my life I'm paying attention to being healthy so that I'm not getting diseases and passing that along to other people? Like COVID-19 is just a thing that's on the table right now. It's a hot, flashy topic. That's what we happen to be all talking about. It's not going away. It's always going to be here. Before COVID-19, there was other things. And so, by the way, if you want to get the vaccine, I'm totally cool with it. Go ahead. That's totally fine. I have zero problem with it. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, and I don't even would consider myself like a conspiracy person. But no, for me, the health for myself and for other people, it extends much beyond just whether I'm going to go get a shot or not.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle.
100%. I signed up to go get it, and then I bailed. Not because I was like, I already had it. I already had COVID, and I heard it's worse when you get the shot.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't really need it. My wife hasn't had it. When I had it, I was quarantined to a room. And since I couldn't smell, I had the 2 bulldogs. Okay. And they stink. But I couldn't smell them. So
wow.
It worked out really well. But, you know, and she's pregnant right now, and they advise against her getting it. For that
Do they
reason.
really?
Well, her doctor did. The government may not, because they're doing trials on pregnant people. How are you going to sign up? Listen, how are you going to sign up for a trial that could affect your child that's in womb?
Dude, people do it.
$1,000.
People do it, dude.
That's insane.
I agree.
Again, I value life.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree.
It's crazy to me.
It's, dude. We know. I know someone who signed up for $200 and they didn't have a kid in their belly, but you're gonna do a trial on your body for $200. I'll pass on that. I'll give you $200 to not do that.
Yeah, seriously.
You know what I mean?
I will happily pay that.
Yeah,
it's confusing.
Yeah, on the vaccine front, look, it's possible that what we're witnessing is a total like win for science and the medical community. Like to come up with something this quick and to be this effective, it could be that we're going to look back on that. History's going to look back on this, and this is just going to be like a total win for technology. I suspect that's probably the case, but I wouldn't bet my life on it.
The science behind the actual vaccine and the RNA and how they're building it. We have scientists that go to our gym that work at Vanderbilt, and they were talking about it, and they're like, this is some of the most I don't know, cutting edge.
Exactly.
Stuff that's ever been done at Vanderbilt. I mean, it's like, it's a big deal.
Yes.
It's still not tested.
Right. That's my only thing with it.
And I trust the science behind, and I trust those people, but I got to put it in my body. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
I don't know. I'm good.
Yep.
I'm good. I already had it. I'm good.
Yeah. What would you say is the most common misperception that you're experiencing that people have about food?
It's the eat less to reach your goal. If you want to lose weight, eat less. And then, you're eating so little and you're not accommodating what your output is. The majority of people that I see, I have to give them more food. And they're like, I can't eat all this. I'm like, you need to. I was like, don't stuff yourself. Eat till you're full. Don't eat till you're stuffed. Satiation is something that is lost with our meal sizes and how we do things. Like if you go to a restaurant, I mean, you're getting a plate full of food and you're expected. And I was raised eat everything on the plate.
Yeah, me too.
That's why I was 200 pounds in 6th grade. I mean, I'm the same weight now as I was in 6th grade because that's the thought process was like, all right, your parents worked really hard to get this food on the table. You eat it. And that's stuck with a lot of people. But I mean, the size of some of those meals that people are eating out is just, it's like, you're looking at like 2,000, that's a daily caloric intake in one meal.
Wow.
For some people. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I would say, the most common misconception about food is that, you can't eat the things you want and reach your goals. Now, if you want ice cream and cookies, that's going to be a little more difficult. But, if you want to have some structure, then you can eat the things you want and have your goal.
Yeah. That is actually a misconception that I would have had too, I think.
Well,
if you want to lose weight, you got to eat less.
And social media has done nothing to help people's, the way they look at their bodies, the way they look at food. Because you have people eating a bunch of hot garbage that have really good genetics. They look good, they're ripped, all this stuff. But they're eating crap. Yeah. And it's going to catch up eventually. Now, down the road, I mean, it may not even be outside. It may be on the inside.
Yep.
That they have visceral fat, fat around the organs. And that could lead to heart disease and kidney failure and things like that. But, no one's looking at that.
Yeah.
They have really nice abs and I want to eat like them.
Yeah.
There's just some gifted freaking humans out there. There really are.
Yes.
Like I look at Street Horner.
Yes.
Street his muscles are eating his skin. He is so lean.
What is going on with him? Why is he so lean? He really does have an incredible upper body, at least.
He's gifted.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, he's the 1%. He's only like 24. And he can do those things. Like I don't know what he eats personally. But I mean, he's a 1%er. Like people don't look like that.
Yeah. He does. He has a really great core.
God, he's ripped.
He really is.
He really is.
He is super ripped.
Yeah.
Well, what else, Jamie? Anything else you wanted?
We touched on a lot of stuff.
We did touch on a lot of stuff.
Some tangents here and there.
Absolutely. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on while you're here?
I mean, I think we hit it all.
Yeah. I feel
really good about it.
I've really enjoyed this, man. It's so great to meet you, and I appreciate your time very much. The last question for you, we're kind of dabbling with this, but it's the idea of like, is there a principle or a practice or a pleasure that you would like to leave maybe in your life that you found helpful or beneficial or whatever, principle, practice, or pleasure you would like to share with the listeners?
Most likely principle, like perspective. So when I look at life, I look at the things that happen to people, like the things that have happened in the last 6 years of my life. And there's a lot of different ways you can perceive that. I could always be the victim and say, why me? Why is this happening? Or I could be like, all right, well, there has to be a reason why I was home when this happened. There has to be a reason why I was working with a trauma nurse when my wife had her seizure, like in home. Like there's a different way to look at everything, you know? And if you're constantly thinking that you're the victim of something, you're never going to see the beauty of what life has for you, you know, if you're constantly complaining about something. So I would say that the main thing I would leave you with is we can't control what everyone else does, but we can control how we react to it. Mm-hmm. So that's how I live my life at this point. I just move on from the things I can't control, and you know, the things I can, I will hug and love and nurture as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. Jamie Free, thanks for being on the podcast.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate it.